They fined me $1,500 for my own boat on my own lake, slapped a bright orange notice on my front door, like I was trespassing on my family's land. And a few weeks later, that same HOA president was standing in front of a judge, listening to her power trip, get read back as evidence. My name is Daniel. And yeah, it really went there. I am not some attorney or developer. I am just the son of two people who worked their whole lives for one quiet patch of earth and water. And I watched an HOA decide their rules were bigger than our deed. I grew up on that lake before anyone called it an amenity, before the brochures and buzzwords just our crooked farmhouse, a dock my dad built with his own hands, pine shadows on 30 acres of still water. Because of the way the parcels were drawn years ago, our deed covered the entire lake bed and water rights, every inch of it. As a kid, I thought it just meant more places to fish. My dad knew it meant we had something rare you have to defend. He would sit on the dock at sunset boots hanging over the edge and say the world is going to get loud. Danny, that is what it does. So you hang on to the places that keep you quiet. Then the bulldozers came. One season, it was woods across the water. The next, it was cul-de-sacs. Model homes, stone mailboxes lined up in a row, a sign stuck in the ground. Cedar Ridge Harbor, a deed-restricted community. I remember standing next to my dad, looking at that sign, and asking what it meant for us. And he said they built a neighborhood, not a throne. A couple weeks later, a guy in a white polo and clipboard walks up our driveway like he owns the breeze. Good afternoon. I am Trevor from the Cedar Ridge Harbor HOA. Thrilled to welcome you to the community, he says. Dad wipes sawdust off his hands and says, "We are not in your community." Trevor laughs. Like that is cute. Well, technically, all properties around the amenity lake are part of the extended community. Shared standards, shared access. Great for property values, he says, and kind of gestures at our lake. Dad's voice goes flat. That is not an amenity. Lake, that is my lake. The deed is at the courthouse, if you want to read it. Trevor's smile twitches. Then he throws in that line about expecting everyone to respect the neighborhood look. Dad tells him we are happy. With ours closes the door. I honestly thought that was the end of it. You know what I mean. Grown men talk, they figure it out. Instead, that was the start of the slow squeeze. Letters show up about our boathouse color, our natural reeds, our old boat, written like citations. People we do not know wander down our driveway to the shore, talking about their future lake access, snapping photos off our dock. One guy tells my dad, "The lake is a shared feature." Now we all pay dues, and Dad says you are standing on private property turnaround. That should have been enough. It just made them smarter about being petty. Complaints start hitting the county noise unsafe structures. Aggressive dog, which is ridiculous because our lab, Honey, would probably help a burglar pack. Inspectors come find nothing leave, but each visit chips away at my parents a little. Then they elect Madison. If you have ever met someone who thinks a clipboard is a crown, that is her. Perfect hair, calm voice, all concern. Her first letter we acknowledge, you are not members. However, community standards apply to all properties affecting aesthetics. Non-compliance may result in county involvement. No authority, but it looked official, and she leaned on that. HOA folks start fishing off our dock, claiming Madison says the lake is for residents. Dad walks down, tells them to leave. They roll their eyes. The tension becomes a background hum in our lives. One afternoon in the kitchen, he grabs the counter. Goes pale. Mild heart attack, they say. 9 days after he comes home, Madison shows up with a sad smile. says large properties are such a burden. Maybe it is time to consider selling to a family who could fully participate in the community, especially with that lake. He stares at her, leaning on his cane, and says, "Do not use my heart to circle my land." She leaves. He fights them until he cannot. When he dies, the first HOA letter with his name on it talks about curb appeal following Mr. Cole's passing. That is when something in me hardens. Mom lasts another 1.5 years. One of her last clear evenings, she squeezes my hand on the porch and says, "Promise me you will not let them take this." I promise. After she is gone, it is just me and the lake, and too much quiet. So I start Blue Haven rentals, a handful of kayaks, paddle boards, little boats, all fully permitted with the county. I wanted to keep the lake alive and pay the bills without selling our history. For a while, it is good. Locals come out, treat the place right. I hear laughter instead of letters. Then one morning I walk down and see it bright orange notice on my shed. Unauthorized commercial activity on Cedar Ridge Harbor. Community property sign. $500, remove all equipment. I laugh because they just wrote down a lie about owning what is on my deed. I pocket it. Before I can respond, Madison drives her golf cart right into the middle of my dock area while I am with customers, raises her voice and announces, "I am operating illegally on community property," says the fine has doubled and legal action is coming. I tell her, "This is my land, my lake. You have no jurisdiction." And she says we will see what a judge says. I feel that mix of embarrassment and anger you get when someone tries to strip you down in front of strangers. That is the day I start writing everything down. Fishing club guys block my launch. Fake reviews show up online. My sign gets knocked over. I install better cameras and keep receipts. Then, at 2 in the morning, my dog loses it barking, and I smell smoke. I step outside, and my shed is blazing flames shooting up kayaks, melting sparks, tossing across the water. The fire department puts it out. Investigator pulls me aside and says we found accelerant cameras. Facing that way, we're spray painted. Someone came onto my property, blinded my cameras, burned my business. Next day, I get a cut and paste note. "Next time your house." Yeah, that happened. Madison shows up again with her soft voice about how maybe this is a sign. Commercial activity is wrong for the area, and I tell her if she does not leave my driveway now, she can explain herself on my security footage. She leaves without a smile. I go to a lawyer. We lay out the deed, the history, the letters, the fire. He looks at the documents and says, "Daniel, you own this lake outright, they never have." So we stop playing defense. We send certified letters to every HOA homeowner with a copy of the deed and a clear notice. The lake and lake bed are private. Any past informal access is revoked due to harassment and arson. Future use will be trespassing. I put up serious signs, photograph them. Some neighbors are furious, some confused, some quietly reading what they should have read from the start. Madison's answer is to have the HOA sue me for cutting off historic community access. That lawsuit is her big mistake, because now we get discovery. My lawyer requests their minutes emails. Financials, they stall the judge orders. When the boxes come in, we start reading. There it is in black and white talk of enhanced enforcement, to push me toward sale plans to make his operations impossible, payments to shell companies tied to Madison's husband for services no one saw. Suddenly, it is not just me saying I feel targeted. It is their own record, showing they tried to break me and skim their neighbor's money at the same time. Court day. The room is full people whispering. Their lawyer talks about community expectations and shared lakes. My lawyer calmly walks through my deed, shows the judge the boundaries, then puts up their emails and numbers. The mood flips. The judge asks their side if they would like to explain the harassment notes and shady payments. They ask for a recess, come back looking smaller. They float the idea of settlement. We say no. The judge dismisses their lawsuit with prejudice. States clearly I own the lake, and the HOA never did, and announces she is referring the financial evidence to law enforcement. The gavel hits, and I watch the woman who tried to fine me off my own water realize she just handed a loaded file to people she cannot bully. It does not fix everything overnight. Some neighbors are angry they lost what they thought was their playground. Some feel betrayed that their dues fed someone's side hustle. Investigations move slow. Board members resign. But for the first time in years, I can stand on my dock, look across that water, and know nobody with a clipboard can show up and pretend ink on fake rules beats ink on a real deed. Then I have to decide what kind of man I am going to be, now that I finally won. Part of me wants to keep it all locked, no one touches a drop. Another part of me remembers my parents let good people fish when they asked. So when a few of the decent neighbors come to me admit they were misled, ask if there is any way to do it right for their kids, I do not slam the door. I write an agreement on my terms. Limited passes. Strict respect. One violation, and you are done. Some folks say I am crazy soft. Some say I am too harsh. And honestly, I am fine being in the middle. The difference now is simple. I am choosing. So if you are still here, I want to know what you think. Where is the line between a neighborhood looking out for itself and a handful of people hiding behind rules to push others around? Do you think I went too far or not far enough? What would you have done if someone tried to turn your inheritance into their amenity? Tell me in the comments. Argue about it. Share your own stories about HOAs or neighbors or bosses who cross that line. Hit like if this made you see that policy is not always the same thing as right. And subscribe if you want more real stories that do not cut out the ugly parts, because this is not the only time somebody with a little power thought they owned more than they do.